Annyeonghaseyo. Hello and welcome to Mr. E's Watch Reviews. Today we're going to basically compare the Pagani and the Invicta and how close do they actually come to a real Rolex. I would also like you guys to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Actually, I'm trying to hit a lot more than that, but I need 1,000 so I can actually start making some money and be able to buy some more watches. Also, if anybody would be interested in sending a watch in for me to review, hit me up on my email. Let me know what we can do, and I'll pay the shipping or whatever. And, I really appreciate the help just because I'm running out of watches. I'm running out of people I know with nice watches, or at least decent watches, or the kind of watches you guys would want to see. So let's start talking about these guys. All right, so basically I don't have a standard black on black Submariner and a Pagani, so we're just working with what we got. As far as the way these things actually look, and again, I just want to make sure y'all understand what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about how close they are to Rolex, we're not talking about an ultimate finish or quality of movement. Okay, I'm just talking about how close they look to what they're emulating, because believe it or not, these are a lot closer than what you would think. Now, there are some major differences, especially when you get down to the details of these things. But let's start with the Invicta. Oh, hang on it. All right, so with the Invicta, if you guys didn't see my Rolex review where I reviewed my buddy's 2005 Rolex, essentially the similarities were striking. So his Rolex, Coke bezel, like 17 years old. It was a 2005 model, so it had the aluminum bezel, just like this one. Had the little mini indices, just like this one. The loom sucked, just like this one, which I'm sure it didn't at one time. But if you don't believe me, you can go back and watch, or go watch my Rolex video. When it gets to the loom shot, it literally only lasted a minute. It was not sped up. It was not fast forwarded. You watch the hands on the watch. It's a minute. And it goes from bright green to nothing. You can't even see it. Which is almost pretty much what this one does. Actually, to be honest, at least the hour hands on this one will glow pretty good for about a minute or two. So again, very striking in similarity. The one the Rolex that I had, checked out, was the no drill lug design like this one, or like this, except for it didn't have dumbass Invicta written all over the side, deep as shit. That is so ugly. But, again, once it's on my wrist, I can't ever see that. So it only bothers me when I'm doing these damn reviews. The bezel, again, this looks very similar. Come on, focus. Focus, camera. There we go. Okay. So the coin edge bezel is very similar, but this is nowhere near as aggressive as the actual Rolex. So, that's kind of an issue. But again, it's very similar. Like I said, this definitely mimics the older models quite well. And believe it or not, here, let me grab this one because I haven't changed the bracelet on this one yet. This clasp is like super, super close in my opinion which again, when you're talking about a Rolex, you know, like my problem is, guys, when I first started checking them out, they busted out the newer ones for me first. And when I go back and like they had, you know, this kind of clasp type deal with like the diverging extension and all this other good stuff, nice milled clasp. And then when I got showed the older ones, because, you know, I'm like, ooh, I like this one because it's got the ceramic. I just like the way it looked. Again, not knowing the differences, like I was going into the store and getting my getting some education right then because I knew absolutely nothing, which I basically still don't. But at any rate, once I saw this, and then I, you know, was like, oh, well, where's the ones that I could actually maybe afford in the gray marketplace? They had a couple for like, you know, $8,000-9,000, and you know they were late 80s, mid 90s watches, and they had clasps just like this, you know. And that's when I was like, really? I don't want to pay that much for a watch that's got a clasp like that. I mean, like this one here, it works quite well. You hear it. I mean, it locks in nice and tight, and there's really not anything wrong with it. But once you get, you know, the milled, where you get the diver's extension, or, you know, you get the glide lock, like in this one. And again, this is upgraded. You can't buy it like that. I had to do that myself. You get it when you buy the Invictas, they come like this. So, I mean, again, eerily similar, a lot closer than you would think for, you know, under $100 watch to compare to, you know, a $7,000 to $10,000 watch. Because I'm, you know, I would love to say that all Submariners are $15,000, but in all honesty, the older versions like this should be in 7 to 9, maybe 10,000 range if it's really nice. But I mean, that's just so crazy. You know, that's just a lot of money. But so the Invicta, as far as how it wears, other than the stupid fat case back, feels very much like the real deal on your wrist. Again, we're just talking about, you know, size and dimensions and stuff like that. This thing outweighs a real one by a ton, especially one in that vintage range. Like I said, we measured up Keith's GMT, which should have extra moving parts in there. And it only came up at 121 grams. So this thing would outweigh it by quite a bit. But as far as the aesthetics, it's super close. It's super close. I'd say it's probably about a good solid aesthetically 85, maybe 90% there. And I mean, when you factor in the price tag, that's when you can really start forgiving stuff like the big fat case back. Like, look, I love it when baby got back, but whew, good Lord, not on my watch, man. I want the butt on the watch to be nice and slim. I think the one of my girls, though, to be nice and chunky. Well, not chunky, but nice and round, like an apple or a peach. Anyway, so yeah, these are actually pretty close. Pretty close. You know, like I said, you know, I was just so disappointed in the lume on that Rolex the other day. Oh my God! I was like, if I had paid $15,000 for this watch and I found out the lume sucked ass like that, I would be pissed. So that's just something to think about. Like when you guys go get a old Rolex or a pre-owned one, and you're at the store and you're like, wow, I can actually afford that $7,000 one. Remember to check out the lume before you get home, because I'm sorry, that would not make me happy at all. All right. So that's the other Invicta. So again, if you're looking for that good classic Submariner look, like the old school, this is not a bad way to go. It's, you know, I think it's a very reliable movement. It's very robust. Is it Swiss? No, but it does work good. Actually, like, this would be an excellent choice for your everyday work watch. Just because you could beat it up, and if it actually, got destroyed, it would suck, but it would not be the end of the world because it's less than $100. But a lot closer. Actually, a lot closer. So okay, let's move on. So the Pagani. This, again, the way it feels is actually like once it's on the wrist, this actually feels a whole lot better than you would think. Like, it fits nice. It fits good to the wrist. The only problem I have with this one is the links here. And I might have the screws just a little bit tight, but I don't like my stuff coming loose. But again, because this has got the diver's extension, you can only get it but so tight. Because if you get too tight, then you can't do nothing with it on a hot day, and it gets hot here in Virginia, especially in Virginia Beach. Take that thing back off. The dimensions on this are right close. I think it's a little bit on the chunky side as far as thickness. Let's go ahead and bust out the micrometer. Oh. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's 12.8, 12.9, which is pretty thin. Go to the Cyclops, 13.8. So again, not bad. It's not bad at all. Again, they get it pretty close on this one. I mean, ceramic bezel, sapphire glass. Obviously, we're not talking about 316 steel. Or we are talking about 316 steel, not 904. The movement in here, again, solid, robust, works good, runs well, very reliable, tried and true. Bracelet, very nice, articulates pretty good. You get the one spot down here, like I said, I think I got this one screw link that's just a little tight because it does not want to move. But I don't want it to fall out. Actually, it don't even matter because I'm about to change the bracelet on this one. Because I want to move it over to Glide Lock City and make a whole different watch, or make the watch feel a whole lot better. Once you put this thing on a Glide Lock, it feels just like one of the newer Rolexes, in my opinion. Like when it's on the wrist. It does have a little bit of bezel play. That's something I did forget about. As far as the Invictas go, on like the bezel doesn't feel bad, but this does not feel like a real Rolex. Yes, it functions like one, but when I say functions, I just mean it rotates. As far as the way it feels, this does not feel like the real deal. And like that one feels terrible. Like that's the worst bezel I have on any of my Invictas. But especially with the Invictas, you really have to not apply any downward pressure, because if you push down on this crown, it doesn't want to rotate. You got to, gently rotate it from the side. Which I know that sounds like, well, duh. Why would you be pushing down on it? Sometimes in order to get the grip on the bezel, because the tooth cut isn't all that deep, that's what you got to do. Anyway, so with this one, the bezel action isn't terrible, but again, it feels just like my ratchets that I use at work. My fingerprint right on it. I see why guys wear gloves in all their videos now. I couldn't figure it out at first. It's like, man, why are you doing that? You know, ashamed of your hands or whatever? You know, I mean, like, somebody's giving me a hard time about why my hands are dirty. Look, this is after a shower, scrubbing, and everything else. Like, it just, you can see I have working man hands. You know, I'm sorry. It just, you know, my calluses are that deep, and, you know, it is what it is. I try my best to, you know, to wash my hands as thoroughly as possible, but sometimes my hands are just stained. So, anyway, this, like I said, the finish on it is very nice. You know, like I said, I wear my watches, so it does have some scratches. It could use a little bit of polishing. But this has a much thinner case back than the Invicta. So that definitely gets you a lot closer to where you want to be. This part of the bezel is a bit on the thick side in comparison to a real one. They're a little bit thinner. Like, you wouldn't have all this metal down here below the coin edge, or they would have cut the coin edge in a little bit deeper. This one doesn't feel bad on your fingers. It's a little bit easier to grip. But again, this bezel action does not feel anything like the real one. So again, it's the same as in it functions and it will work for you. However, this does not feel like a real Rolex. Aesthetically though, like just looking at it, it looks pretty close. You know, so again, comparison to two, which one's gotten a little bit closer? I'm gonna have to give this round, and again, because you know, these are two different variations. I would say the way it wears, the Pagani is just slightly closer because this one's got the fat case back. However, ignorance is bliss. If you never actually put on a Rolex, either one of these will feel just like it. If you've never worn the Pagani and you just go straight to the Invicta, you won't really know what you're missing. However, when you're wearing them and all that kind of stuff, the Invictas are comfortable in the sense that this is the only part that actually touches your arm or wrist. The only problem is it does sit up a little bit off your wrist. However, when you get the glide lock on there, like on this one, it does set better. It sets closer. You know, like when I put it right there, you know, you just get a little bit of gap here at the corners. So that's not as bad. And again, because this glide lock bracelet has male links instead of female links. Yeah, I'll put this one on real quick. Tag on it. Cookie Monster. Now, one thing I will tell you about the Invictus, I really like the fact that they have all the different color variations. You know, that's one thing I really love, because like when I first went to the gray market store, it was like right around Christmas time. They had two tones, they had Hulks, they had Cookie Monsters, they had Smurfs. I mean, they had everything. And you know, I'm just sitting there looking at the colors, not realizing they're necessarily all different materials and stuff like that. You know, because when you first glance at it, the white gold and the stainless steel look very similar. But see how this one fits? You know, like you get the big gap on the one side here with this bracelet, and like it kind of does this funky thing right here because of the strap, where it just kind of does like this. But again, it doesn't feel terrible, but you know, it's little things like that that kind of bug you, especially after once you wear something else that, you know, it's like, oh, it doesn't do that. So I'm not a fan of the fat case back. Like, if anybody knows of a different case back, especially something that's exhibition, because I do like being able to see the movement, but honestly, I don't ever see the movement when I'm wearing the watch. So if anybody else knows of a different case back that I can use on this watch that will slim it down a bunch, that would be super awesome, because that is something I would like to change on this. And not just this one, but on all my Invictas. So, you know, how do these two stack up? As far as like getting close to what they're mimicking, I'd say they're both at least a good solid 85% there. Now, if you want to get into the movements and all this other stuff and all that kind of jazz, well, you know, that's where they're really going to fall behind. And we're not even going to, like, these are both good, robust, reliable movements, and they're good enough to make sure you get anywhere you need to be on time and take the butt whooping. But are they Rolex Swiss level? No. And I mean, you know, just because, like, honestly, I want to do a comparison video between them and the Janot, but it's not even fair. Like, this watch kicks the shit out of these two. And I mean, it should. You know, the price point and the level of quality and hand finishing, blah, blah, blah. Like, this watch is far beyond these guys. You know, now the videos about how close these two, or how close these guys come to the actual Rolex, but, you know, which one is really the better watch? Now, see, this is where it comes into play, and you need to figure out what kind of guy you are. Because at first, I was really more of a more vintage, old school kind of guy, just because I figured that would be the one I'd be able to afford first. But the more I've learned about the newer ones, if I were to actually try and purchase a real Rolex, I would have to go with any, like, it would have to be a 2012 or newer. I got to have the ceramic, and I got to have the glide lock. I got to. Which led me to understand the only thing I really, really super like about the older ones is the lugs, the slimmer lugs. I do like the aluminum bezel, but as far as, like, you know, the loom being mediocre and all that stuff, and having paid $6,000 or $7,000 for a 30-year-old watch, or even $10,000 for a 30-year-old watch, you know, that would upset me. Like, you know, to have got it back in the day when, you know, like, I don't know. I really like these, but I like the maxi dial. I like the big indices. I like the ceramic. You know, the only thing I have to, you know, compromise on these is, you know, just slightly thicker lugs. Well, that is what it is, but, you know, I would say the Invicta is probably the better choice. Man, that's so hard to say. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Invicta. If you really want to look and, like, to get it pretty close, shit, that's not really even fair. I don't know. You guys decide. Which one do you think actually got it closer? And again, understand that this isn't the black dial. They do have the black dial for this watch. I would definitely say that's Cyclops on this one. It definitely looks a lot closer to a 2.5 times Cyclops versus that one. Let's see. I don't know. We know this one's 2.5. Yeah. Because, see, you can see that one's doing that because you can see how small that date window is. It's tiny. I don't know. Shit, that might be a 3 times magnifier on that one. Oh, that's what it is. The date window's already kind of big. Yeah, you see that? That date window's already kind of large. That's why it just comes up like super huge. And this one, you can see the date window is actually pretty decent size. So I don't know if that's a 2.5 times magnifier. But either way, it's functional. I don't know. I really like the Invictas. And more or less just because, you know, they don't have the bezel play like the Paganis do. And because, like, this Pagani is the better one that I have. And you can see, like, I mean, it just, you know, it's got that play. This don't have that play. So, you know. But yeah, I mean, a lot closer than you would think than what you would really expect for an actual Rolex. Because I was so surprised when I got that one the other day and it had the stamped clasp like this. I mean, it just, like, are you kidding me? Really? You know, and then again, it's not nothing wrong with it. It just, you know, like I said, it's the whole ignorance is bliss. You think that thing is awesome until you see a milled one. Once you see the milled one, it's like, well, everything else sucks. So, I don't know. I should have just stayed in my little ignorant world of, you know, I don't know no better. But hopefully y'all liked the video. Sorry, it's really early in the morning. I'm kind of tired still. I don't know why I did it this early. But y'all have a good day. Later.